had gone. A warm welcome to Jaana Kettunen, who is a research professor in the University of Jyväskylä, in a country which still has a national educational research institute. I'm saying it in a very jealous way because, for example, in case of Hungary, we don't have this type of institute anymore. And then the reason why we invited Jaana, because we started a cooperation in the Central Eastern European region. At the moment, there are 4 countries and 4 associations participating in the project. Namely, the countries are the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania, which is partly Central Europe and also Eastern Europe. And then the agencies or the institutions, associations behind are mainly relatively small NGOs working in the field of career guidance. The Slovak agency is 10 years old, the Hungarian as well, and by heart I can't tell you exactly the number of ages since the Romanian agency has been working, or the Czech, but more or less this is who we are. People who are very much keen to further develop and reinforce lifelong guidance systems and then services, taking into consideration the citizen's right and taking CMS, the career management skills, as a citizen's right. And then in the last year IAVG conference, we heard so much from you and also from the other colleagues in Finland, introducing the new competency framework you worked with in the last couple of years. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is also a globally known phenomena through the IAVG and many other different channels. So what we really want to understand from your presentation, how can we mobilize this knowledge in Central Eastern Europe, where you will see, based on the question I assume later on, that we are in a very different stage of development at the moment, but we are ready to improve. So a warm welcome again, Jaana, and then the floor is yours. If we can agree that having your presentation like half an hour, that would be super, and then probably the audience going to have a few questions to you afterwards. Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. One moment. Just to get the computers already. Okay, I need to use, hopefully this will work for now. There is some tech from my side. Can you, Tibor, is this visible or enough?
Yes, it's readable.
Okay, good. All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much, Tibor, for your kind introduction. It is truly a pleasure to be here with all of you today, and as Tibor was saying, I share a little bit of the journey that weaves together the voices of hundreds of professionals across Finland when we were developing this national competency framework for career professionals. Okay. I need to do something to move forward. One would think that I'm professional on using technology, but it's not that easy. So let's start by having a look. How did this all start? Finland's national strategy for lifelong guidance in 2023 outlined that our country is recognized for having a highly professionalized system of guidance by international standards, but the professional title and qualifications of those who work in the field, they are quite, we have a lot of variation in there. In response to this, this same strategy made a development proposal highlighting the need to draw up a national description of the core and special competencies of guidance work to improve the quality of guidance and strengthen the professionalism on the field. So this isn't just about setting standards, it's also about creating a shared understanding, a common language that allows professionals to describe, assess, and develop their practice, no matter where they work. And to support this, the strategy also called for comprehensive evaluation of education and training pathways for guidance professionals. That was a partly parallel process that took place in Finland. The development of the National Competency Framework, it was made possible through EU Recovery Resilience Facility funding. And that actually then gave us really an opportunity to carry out this work on a national scale with the depth, breadth, and the inclusivity that was required. The creation of the National Competency Framework was not something that was done behind closed door. It was really a collaborative nationwide effort. From the very beginning, we recognized that it is, if this framework was going to be acceptable, adopted, and actually used by the field, then the field had to be involved in creating it. The process unfolded over the course of nearly 1 year, and it involved more than 700 professionals across the Finland. So as you can see here, from every sector of the guidance work, they were involved. We began with the literature review, examining the national and international models to understand how other countries are defining the competencies, and more importantly, how they reflect local context. But it quite quickly became clear that no existing model could be simply copied. We needed something unique to Finland and shaped by those who work here every day. So as you can see here, we hosted a series of national and regional workshops. Some of them were in persons, many of them were online, with participants from schools, higher education, public employment services, youth services, one-stop guidance services, and specialized, also those who work in specialized, more demanding contexts. We met with practitioners from whole field, including also the Swedish-speaking professionals and also newly graduate professionals, also the training providers and universities who are responsible for educating the future guidance staff were involved. You see in the picture, there are pencils, and that describes that at several key stages, we publish drafts of the competency frame for open online consultation. So importantly, those and the open online consultation, part of that was that though it was open for anyone, but those who wished to provide feedback registered with their names. That was a purposeful decision from us so that we can create a transparency and really invite genuine conversation, and could also return if some of the comments remain unclear for us. And based on the feedback and workshops, we refined, we simplified, we clarified, and we continued to work and remove the redundancies. The final outline of the competency framework took truly shape during this co-creation process. When we started, the very first frame based on the literature review was quite different. It was shaped truly in this process. Rather than trying to keep the model that we started with and asking people to adapt it, we let the framework emerge through the dialogue, through the iteration, through challenge and challenged questions and discussions, and through then finding on consensus. And as a result, I think the structure that we have arrived is somewhat at least solid, but at the same time flexible. It's rooted in what practitioners actually do and adaptable to a wide range of roles and context. I know that you have had an opportunity maybe to look, but I'll try to, in this small time, to just give you a little overview. So the framework is built around three main areas, which are the professionalism, client work, and systemic competence. The competency framework consists altogether 12 competency areas, which are grouped into the three main areas described above. Each competence area describes the specific competence needed in the work of guidance professionals now and in the near future. When we in the model, in the further of that, the area of the competencies, each of the area of the competency have been divided then further, as you can see in this picture, into smaller, more detailed parts, which then actually contain the concrete, clearly worded descriptions of what guidance professionals need to know, need to understand, and what they need to be able to do. One thing what I want to highlight is that these competencies are not tied to any single sector. They apply across schools, employment services, higher education, youth services, and more. Just you will have an opportunity dig into deeper, but if we look these areas, so first area, the professionalism, this is really about who we are as practitioners. You see these different areas here that are so they include competencies related to ethical and legal responsibilities, understanding confidentiality, rights, duties, and ethical boundaries, not just in theory, but in a daily decision making. We have theory and research-based knowledge, knowing which frameworks guide you in your daily work and which of those you apply, or how do you apply to those insights appropriately in different situations. Reflective practice, the ability to analyze one's own actions, learn from feedback, and continually improve. Communication and interactions, both in person and digitally, and across sectors, languages, and with cultures. And then the digitally competence, not only using technology, but understanding how it affects the guidance process and understand the privacy, moving from or understand the privacy matters? How do we involve and how do we participate on online settings, and how do we create presence in online settings? The client work, this is of course in the heart what we as the professionals, what we do. The emphasis here is in process competency, guidance and learning theories, and methodological competence. So in the ability to adapt to the different circumstances and different individuals' needs. Also, how do we applicate the career development and learning theories, and then use the evidence-based methods, promote agency and self-directions in the individuals who we work with. It's about co-creating processes with individuals, with clients, based on mutual respect and trust. So this third area, the third domain is perhaps the most, well, I would say most forward-looking in a way, the systemic competence. The work that we do, it doesn't happen in vacuum. It takes place within systems, within schools, in employment services, in regional development structures, and it often involves multiple actors. So this domain really includes competencies that relate understanding how guidance fits into larger framework, how it fits into institutional and even policy frameworks. Having a competency and understand how can we contribute to the design and improvement of the services. How and what kind of competency we need when we work in multi-professional teams. You see there is networking competency area. And how do we engage and what kind of skills and competencies it requires in engaging in strategic planning and advocacy. It's also about being able to explain what do we do, not only to the individuals, our clients, but to colleagues, to funders, and those who make decisions, whether the decisions is in your own institute, in regions, or policies. To speak, what kind of skills and competencies it requires to speak the language of system, I would say, without losing the sight of the people, the clients, the individuals who we work with and who we work for. In today's world, this systemic competence, it's not optional anymore. If we look our context here, it is essential for anyone who is working at the intersection of education, employment, and social work. So how do we take these worded competence descriptions and make them something practical, something that career professionals, guidance professionals can actually use? That was one of the questions, actually one of the important questions in our process when we were nearly at the final stage. not only that we wanted to make sure that these are available to read online, we wanted to ensure that framework just doesn't sit on a shelf, but then we stopped and wanted to build alongside a concrete, easy set tools, easy to use tools, so that these tools could support professionals to reflect, to assess and plan their own work, or their own development, their own goals, even if I would say based directly on this competency framework. What did we do? We created three different tools. And these tools, they actually have two key purposes. The first one is that they can support you on your self-assessment. So helping professionals to reflect on their own current level of competencies. And secondly, to give the tools where to support on setting and monitoring on possible learning objective. So turning the reflection into real development. And not only, although that the first beginning it was that the tools would be a self-assessments, but they can be used in your organization as a whole. You can look how we as a group of professionals provide services, what kind of competencies we have. So we've learned that they have been used also in not only on self-assessment, but in group or institutional level assessment as well. So we have here is the descriptions. We have 3 separate, it says forms, because they are available in paper, in very traditional, so you can use them in pen and with paper and pen, or all the tools are also available online. I'll shortly show you and describe. So based on the competency descriptions, first there is this competency assessment table. So this is a structured form that allows anyone to assess their own level of competence by comparing their own thinking of the descriptions, and you see the scales there are. So we've created this 3-level scales for competency levels, and this helps to pinpoint or see where one feels confident and where one might think that there is opportunities to strengthen the competency. Then the second tool is a competency map. This is a visual tool, almost like a radar chart, which then gives you a picture of your or one's own competency across the different areas. It is easy to use for individuals, and it's also an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to also see how you as a team might be looking, and how your collective strengths are if you look at that as a team, and where you might recognize that as a group or as a professionals in our institute, where you might recognize that there might be some development needs. So if desired, the same map can be used to set goals. So helping to track also that where do we consider that our competencies should be. And you see there on right, the online version. So the one color, the red color, has been the first round where one has mapped the current personal thinking of the competency level, and then the blue one has just redoing the same form and setting the target level that one thinks where the competency should be or would like it to be. So you will be able to get the visualization. On online tool, we made it so that no information is stored in. That is just to make professionals more comfortable to use the tool, as they know that no information is saved there. They can download the results as a PDF files and then save and use it. And then the third form, as said here, then we have created the competency development planning form. And this is where the reflection then becomes, in a way, an action. It is developed to help professionals identify specific goals, plan concrete steps towards those goals, and monitor their own progress over time. It's a tool for structured learning, but also for professional ownership. It is also a tool that hopefully will help. For example, in Finland, sometimes it's not that easy to get on these days opportunities to go for training. It is hopefully gives an evidence-based way, in a way, to provide rationality for the person who you need to ask, maybe to give you a grant or give you an opportunity to go in service training. So that's the idea also here, that these three tools together could build something that help not only the professional, but also the ones that they work, or ones that you need to show your work and what kind of skills and competencies is needed, so that it gives a discussion, a way to raise a discussion, and also a way to act on. These tools are already being used in staff development programs, in quality assurance efforts, in professional training. The tool has been taken into use. For example, when the students come to the training program at the university, they use this tool when they start, and then they use it during their education, and it is a discussion tool during the conversation with the trainers in a program. Well, I know this is very short and quick overview. In the slides, here are the references, and also I added if you have interest on looking the competency frameworks and assessment tools, there is a straight link, and all of the tools are available online for free. So if you want to test or use, they are available currently in 3 different languages. Did I have something else? No, then that was just my thank you. So I hope that this quite short, quick overview gave some food for your thoughts, and although the framework and the tools have been built to the Finnish context, I hope that the model and the experience behind it can contribute meaningfully to the work and dialogue that you are doing. We all are working towards the same goal: better guidance, stronger systems and more empower and the ways that we can better empower individuals in every country. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very short but very compact overview. And then in the chat, we are already circulating some of the references. Actually, we start the circulation beforehand. If I can just, before moving to the question and answer part, mentioning why you are here today. So already
Yes.
giving an explanation that one of our work packages is about the benchmarking or reviewing the 4 countries' different type of competency frameworks for career guidance professionals. And because it is Central Eastern Europe, it's not as easy. So it's only the Czech Republic has an official state-recognized competency framework for guidance professionals under the Ministry of Education, not the other 3 countries. However, there are different type of guidelines which were prepared by professionals like us. So then the $1 million question starts here, how you start reviewing the puzzles, the different patchworks. And then why Finland and why we invited you? Because we also started reviewing the very well-known IAVG and other standards like the Canadian ones. But I think it's only the Finnish which has very fresh references to all of these previously established guidelines all around the global level or in different countries. I assume the question going to come either people are going to activate their mic and they want to pose the question directly, but if I can ask you then in this case do it in English. Or you can type your question as well, and then I can read it for you. As the questions are coming, we already had a couple of questions which arrived before the webinar. So if you let me, then probably I'm going to check with those. Okay, I'll start with those questions. The first question is that what is the implication of this new competency framework in the Finnish education system? So how was the impact, or what could be the future impacts?
The Finnish education system.
Yeah, and it is not specified that are we talking about the general education, higher education, or vocational education. So then take the liberty how you want to answer.
Well, as I said, I think as a whole, what it gives a common frame when professionals talk about the competencies, it's a common frame that can be used. One also, if we look the training institutes who provide the in-service training, I go a little bit in the side, but they also have an opportunity to use the frame. You see, we have used the numbers on, for example, on indexing their training. So if professionals are seeking that they would like to strengthen their competency on one of these areas, training institutes who provide in-service training, they could use that similar coding saying this training course fulfills the national competency framework, especially, or is targeted in certain areas. More generally, I think the whole frame gives a frame for those who work, to recognize as the tools were developed, to recognize that they see what are the skills that are needed here. They also recognize that where they possible could strengthen on that. The reality is that, of course, when we look the whole education system, for example, the university level, universities are quite individuals, so it's up to them, and the whole frame is up to the professionals. How do they make the best use of it? But so far, it has got a really positive response.
Yeah, and my understanding is, as you showcase these self-reflection sheets, which are also available for the model, and then you already published these. Even I'm aware that it's partly available online, so you can visualize your own competencies list. But just changing the mindset, I see the rationale how this can be used for reviewing curricula in different universities.
Yeah.
Offering guidance studies.
And if I continue on that, we use this frame when we were evaluating all our training programs in Finland. So all professional, all the training that train career professionals or guidance professionals, this frame was used when we compared their training programs and how well they fulfill the requirements. That is a separate study, currently published only in Finnish, but the last link in the slide has a link to the IAVG magazine where there is a short description of the results of that analysis. But the competency framework was used on that as well.
Yes, thank you. And we just had received the IAVG magazine you referred to. So there are also IAVG members in the current webinar. The Slovak colleagues just reminding me, to be fair, that the new lifelong learning legislation is in progress in Bratislava, and then they have high hopes that the career development practitioners legislation or competency profile working with adults going to be a part of it. That's going to be another seminar, hopefully within a year, when we can showcase the status quo of this region. Still keeping the focus with the Finnish standards or competency frameworks. You are avoiding using the work standards, I guess. What would you say? What is the unique point? Any of the competencies in the new Finnish framework, which was never really highlighted in the previous ones, as you already mapped your new model to previously developed ones?
What is really unique? I think many things are there. I don't know what is really unique, but I think the systemic competence part, as it is here, a part of really the competency framework, that it's one of the three main areas, maybe is more stronger than has been in the others. So the ability to understand, influence, and contribute to the broader service systems. So that came stronger maybe than some others. What would be the central elements? I think then right now we are where the digital the competencies of course are, but it's not new. Also the throughout that there is the reflective and research-based practice is maybe something that clearly came through for me also. So maybe those three come first to my mind.
Yeah, thank you. I had a bet before the discussion that the systematic elements going to be mentioned, and then, if I'm not mistaken by heart, in 2003, when the first IAVG standard was published, the way how the system element was basically covered, the issue that most of the guidance professionals are active in different sectors. One of your slides was about really these sectoral issues. Was that it was an amended list of like 13 different sectoral standards, and it was attached to the IA Vigilis. So as you visualize your own model, my understanding was that now these different sectors are now embedded in the model. So basically making the voice of guidance professionals stronger, even though they are employed in very different institutions or sectors.
Yeah, and of course here is that this guideline from the starting point, or it is, I didn't go for the structure, but if we think the structure, the main idea is that it fills or it covers that everyone. It doesn't matter in what institute or where do you work. These are the competencies, and then if there are very specific sectoral competencies, then they are explicitly listed there. But generally, there are only some, and those are, for example, that they come from the legislation. So if you work in upper secondary or somewhere, there are some things that they come from the legislation, and then they require, if you work on that context, specific competencies. Otherwise, it is that the whole competency framework and the competencies are for all professionals who work on this sector.
Well, one of the questions is coming from Hungary, still addressing the structure of the Finnish framework. And this is based on the observation, so you can tell us if the observation is correct or not. Why knowledge is missing from the framework? Because again, we are in Central Eastern Europe, so whenever we are talking about teaching activities, we always start with starting and ending with knowledge. So is it a right observation that knowledge is not explicitly mentioned under the certain subtitles?
I don't should look the translations and of course then the wordings. I think the knowledge is embedded throughout there the whole, but I must check that and come back to you.
I mean, it's however, the EQF, the European Qualification Framework, was implemented in these countries. It's also a structure when the knowledge pillar, so the first pillar before the skills and other elements or attitudes, and it's a robust and strong one. And then, I mean, that's probably still one of the reasons why we are asking, or if I'm recalling how we are training guidance professionals, at least in Hungary, what I know better than the case of the other three countries, there is still a very strong emphasis on the theories. So we are teaching theory from Parsons, the modern theories, A to Z, and then very frequently the relation between your daily practice and the theoretical parts are not fully developed.
Yeah, you see that the theories are very strongly still there, but it's also how do you make them, you have the theories are, you need to be aware not only the guidance theories. So I think the theories that we have listed are a little bit wider. And then that is that you need to have a certain level and knowledge of that. So it's not a knowledge as such as a word, but you can find them in the area B, very detailed. But then there is also that on other in other sectors, there's in other areas there's also how do you apply the theory-based knowledge in different contexts. So I would say that although that you don't see it as a word, as a knowledge, it is embedded throughout all these three areas. That is professionalism. It's within there. The theories are highlighted and also in the client work. It's very strongly in there as well.
Right. If you let me, one of the questions is still targeting this issue. So can you give a concrete example in the model how theory and practice connected? Or how would you read your model if you want to connect the theory with practice?
Well, I think generally it is you need to have an understanding, or you need to be aware of the theories in order to make a practical how that become a practical activities. So I mean, you have career construction theory. So if you learn from that, then for example, in educational settings, then you can invite students to do activities like drawing the maps on life maps that explore their personal aspirations, and then you can work with students from there. System theory, that of course is highlights the role of social institutions, policy environments as well. And I mean, if you work in one-stop centers, then you work along with the multi-professional teams. You need to be able then align your services and jointly support the young people's pathways. So none of the models are in theoretical models are really taught in isolation in Finland. The Finnish really, I would say that here the training emphasize how do you integrate the theoretical knowledge already in a training to a real situations when you work in practice. So it's not theory for theory, but also theory and how do we apply that in practice is I would say that the curriculums when they train professionals.
Thank you. There are a few more questions coming from the audience, but I also encouraging anybody who's in the call, if you want to ask your own question, preferably in English, then go ahead. So the new question is coming from Slovakia. Stefan writes, I may have missed something, but how is this competency framework linked or even transferred to the training of guidance professionals? And in this relation too, are there any qualification standards for the career guidance professionals in Finland? Yes, there are, but then the question is to you.
Yeah, how does it link to even transfer to training of? Yeah, that is very good question, and of course this is up to the training institutions. So it is a national frame, and training institutions are now aware of this. I do know that of course, for example, our own university, they have a training programs for career professionals, master degree, and also others. So they've used the tool when they now updated their training programs, and that was one reason for why we wanted to make sure that the trainers are also involved in the process, so that they have a say, they can see how it emerges, and they have an opportunity to comment on the frame. So there's no regulated that they need to follow that. But I would say that generally the framework has quite a good acceptance, and since it was also initiated from the lifelong guidance strategy, and funding came from EU, and the project was led by funding that came from the ministry, then of course that gives a strong sounding board for that as well. And your question on other, are there any qualification standards for career professionals in Finland? If you work in educational settings, you need to have a master's in there, the qualify, and then that is if you work there's a variety if you work in higher education or if you work in public employment sectors, and there we have a big transformation currently. The responsibility has moved to municipalities. If you work in as a status on as a psychology, then you need to have training master from that. Otherwise, working, there are not similar requirements than if you would be working at the education institutions, where also the career guidance is study counseling is a subject as such.
Yeah, I'm just wondering to adding to the answer and also to the question that in some countries, also in Central Eastern Europe, there are strong legislation which are providing a framework for universities about the curricula. Taking the case of Hungary, there are almost like 8, probably 10 universities offering master studies in human resource counseling. But when you check the outcomes and the level of understanding of the former students about career guidance, counseling, or lifelong guidance as a topic, then you end up with a million of different type of answers. So just having a framework which is not taken seriously or interpreted, even I would use a different word, interpreted in different ways in different faculties, probably you end up in very different type of understanding. My favorite discussion with students is when they, after having a half a semester or a semester long career guidance class, they want to say something nice and telling to me that, oh, dear professor, this is almost like coaching. So then it says something about the level of understanding how serious career guidance is, and then how we understand different elements of the professional elements of being a guidance professional.
Yeah.
I'm looking around if there are more questions. I have probably 2, 3 more here coming previously from the audience, as the others probably still thinking. One is very much about the research level. So what aspects would you see important in phenomenographic study, which inspired your original research and can be used in building national frameworks for guidance? I hope I captured the content of the question.
Yeah. Here. For when we were developing the competency framework, there were no phenomenographic studies done. So I guess the question might relate to where the phenomenographic studies, if it's referring to my work, where it has been done. It has been done, for example, looking in Finland in certain education sector. For example, you could ask career practitioners conceptions of competency. You could conduct, and then you would get the variation of their understanding on, or what would be the development needs, and what is required, and based on phenomenographic. You need to have different professionals with different experience working in different contexts with different experience levels, maybe even the different working in different. So phenomenography based on nature looks the variation, whatever the phenomenon is. So once decide the phenomenon, make sure that you have a variation in a group who you are seeking the information, and then those would be the key aspects. But just to saying, in this work, we didn't use phenomenographic literature. Analysis was based on content and thematic analysis.
Okay, thanks a lot for the clarification. If we still can have one more question about the methodology. You mentioned that 700 professionals were consulted all around the country. Just could you give us a hint? What was the methodologies to use to reach them? So focus group surveying, what else?
There were, of course, we have the National Lifelong Guidance Forum. It's the one that we reach the regional people from the region. That was one way for spreading the information about that we have these events. We also combined the workshops with our national events, which are for professional associations. So, for example, practitioners who work at the school, they have a national association who has an annual conference. So we were in contact with the association and asked if we could conduct such workshops in there. And there were nearly 90 people who came to the workshops, which were face-to-face within the existing conference. And similar conference were with the Swedish speakers and also those who work with the adults. Others, then we use social media. We also informing about the events where we are. But to start with, as Tibor said, we are where I work. It's a research institute. We also have a national task to provide evidence base to ministries. So by starting, we also have a strong network that we shared the information about the project. And the one really was also that we opened that for, as you saw, there was this communication opportunity for anyone. So anyone who had an interest could read and follow the whole process. The process is still, okay, well, it's only on Finnish on the website that you can see. But if more detailed is something that you want to learn, happy to share. But really, we tagged some of the events with the existing events, and that was really helpful.
Very, very practical and pragmatic approach, also for us. Another question is coming, which is about the special education. So in what sense the needs of the pupil under special education, different types of special education needs are reflected in the framework? You can also read, I was just reading the main element of the question.
Is it in the chat?
It is in the chat, yes.
Okay, let me see.
So in case of Finland, how are special educational needs of pupil students reflected in your framework? Any methodological ideas addressed to the clients of dyslexia, ADHD, I have difficulties with this abbreviation, or any other type of special education needs?
Yeah, so the challenge here to see, but throughout the competency framework, we as in Finland, the whole this question relates that we have a quite multiple systemic approach to support the pupils who are facing the disadvantages or other challenges. So just to tell a little background, in schools there are multi-professional student welfare teams. So they operate in every school, involving the school counselors, special education teachers, psychologists, and nurses. So part of those competencies are how do you work in the multi-professional teams? How do you make sure that if there are things where other professionals are needed, you involve on them? School also, they receive resources for early intervention and inclusive support, especially where students may lack some backing from communities and or family. The Ohjaamo, the one-stop center model that provides really a coordinated guidance and social support for young people, focusing especially on needs, and also so those kind of competency areas and things. And also if you seek the documentation and the words, I think the emphasis has been also to make some of those shortenings and how do we support the students with special need. But generally here career professionals are working in the multi-professional welfare teams, and so they also recognize where are their competencies and where are the competencies that come from someone else, who, for example, special education teachers. So knowing where your knowledge areas are and where you need to work with someone else who is actually trained on that is of course one competency as well.
Yes, thanks a lot. Again, I see the structural and cultural differences behind the question how we are seeing the role of special education, how far special educators from the schools or from the communities, but that would be a completely other very interesting discussion. One more thing you mentioned briefly, and I just want to highlight it, the Ohjaamo model is also nowadays very well known. Even the Finnish word is well known. And if I'm not mistaken, but probably somebody's here from Slovakia who can clarify this, in the current period, the Slovak government decided after visiting the Ohjaamo that they want to build a youth center. So I heard about Košice and some other locations as well. But just pop up to my mind as I heard the word of Ohjaamo, because otherwise this type of multi-professional teams which are integrated in the Ohjaamo, this is what we had in Hungary during the communist years until 1981, where they closed them for the change of the regime. So from late 1960s until early 80s, Hungary had the system, and the Czechoslovakia, that time called Czechoslovakia, also had very similar features available. Unfortunately, none of these survived until the changes in the early 90s.
This is for us now. When you say that there is a little cultural differences here, this is in legislation. So it's in every school needs to have multi-professional student welfare team, where, as mentioned, special education teachers, study counselors, psychologists, nurses, they need to. So that needs to be, it's students' right and parents. So that is for us, it's not obligate. You need to have them.
Yeah, but yeah, just to really finish this sentence, the question is that what you have in the legislation, for example, in Hungary, we have the 20 pedagogical county centers guaranteed by law to all the pupils, teachers, and parents that they have access to this type of pedagogical services. But on the other hand, there are the school districts, and then the school districts are very often geographically also far from these centers. So whatever you have in the law and whatever you have in your daily life as a pupil, as a parent, as an educator could be very different. And
yeah, this is just this is not a regional, it's a school level. And it needs to be described also in school level. So I think that actually is in place. Of course, we all know that more and more we have young people who have some challenges. So this is also coming through. It came through our focus groups that practitioners were pointing these out.
Right. I assume it's a challenge everywhere nowadays in modern societies. I'm look around one more time if there are more questions to Jaana, using this unique opportunity that she is with us. I see no hands and no new messages in the chat. So if there are no more questions this time, then we're going to circulate again with the memo of the webinar, of course, the resources, so all of this information, what Jaana was talking about, partly or mainly are available in English and then in a written format. So the self-assessment questionnaire for professionals and other tools are also available online. And before we just closing, I have two more, or basically three more tasks to fulfill. The first, that mentioning that we're going to have the next webinar in the before the summer break in 18th of June about sustainability and green guidance in the region, which is still probably a very, very new phenomenon for most of us as practitioners in these countries. And the other one is probably the next slide. We also prepared a very short questionnaire, so you please just take the time and then answer the evaluation survey. It takes only like 2-3 minutes, probably even less. And at the very end, Jaana, big thanks to you for your availability and sharing your recent work with us, and then also some of the background information, how we actually started the development of your own competency framework. Because very often when we start reading, reviewing these type of frameworks, which are often online from different regions, we don't know the eschatology, so we don't know the background of these stories, and then you highlighted some of these. Still, just a few takeaways from my side. Very strongly here, what you mentioned about the localization. This is what we keep saying all the time here as well, that guidance as a profession has a cultural element, and then without localizing the content, it's not going to work. You mentioned a systematic approach, how you use system theory, but also the practitioner's knowledge about systems to build something around career guidance professionals. Even if I want to visualize these systematic sections or section C in your framework, it seems to me like an umbrella which you can put over a few, so then it's saving or providing type of safety net for different type of professionals working in the school district, in public employment office, in private agencies, HR recruitment, and so on. So it's also somehow an important message for professional associations like we are in the 4 countries, why competency frameworks are important, not only for the end users, for the counselees, but also for the professionals. So if no more words, again, thanks a lot for this webinar and for your time. We learned a lot. more webinars going to come very soon. You already heard about the second one, and the additional third one, fourth one will be announced in time. So thank you for everybody joining today, and hopefully see you in June, 18th of June, during the next webinar. Thank you.